Mr. Sterling always says, some teams sell success. The Clippers sell hope. What he means is, we usually lose. He says a lot of things he shouldn't.
Welcome to a very special spinoff of the Sterling Affairs, Let's Talk Clipped. I'm Ramona Shelburne, host and reporter of the original ESPN 30 for 30 podcast, The Sterling Affairs, and executive producer of Clipped, an FX and Hulu sports drama based on the podcast. Each week on the show, I'll sit down with members of the Clip cast and crew to talk about what it was like to make the latest episode. We closely analyze the best scenes, react to the episode's craziest moments, and of course, give you lots of behind-the-scenes juiciness. Fair warning, these conversations are going to have spoilers, so if you care about that kind of thing, you'll want to watch the relevant episode beforehand, which you can stream anytime on Hulu. Today, we're talking about episodes 1 and 2, in which Coach Doc Rivers joins the Los Angeles Clippers and attempts to lead the star-studded team to the playoffs. Meanwhile, V. Stiviano, Donald Sterling's assistant, and Shelley Sterling, his wife, get increasingly frustrated in their love triangle. Something has to give. And it does when a tape that V recorded of Donald making racist remarks leaks on TMZ. Joining me on this first episode is Clip's showrunner, writer, and executive producer, Gina Welch, and writer and producer, Rembert Browne.
Hi, Ramona. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Ramona. Great to see you.
Let's just start off with the opening monologue.
Now, anyone can blow up in an instant. So the dangerous thing about disrespecting a nobody, especially one with big potential like me,
controversy tonight over racist comments he made in audio leaked to TMZ.
I'm listening.
Part of the reason I wanted to start there is because you started there, but also it was a pretty big choice to reframe the story through her perspective, right? She's a young, broke woman of color rather than the Sterlings.
Yeah, I mean, but the story wouldn't have happened without her, right? One of the things we always talked about in the writer's room is that V really understands that the internet is a source of power for someone like her before the world did. And I think for us, she's really the most exciting character in the show because of that. She's very modern.
As I've been telling people about the show and talking about the show, you see someone's mind like go back in time and like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like sometimes you say the Clippers thing from 2014, they know exactly. But a lot of people are like, oh yeah, the woman on the roller skates. It like takes you fully back. So having that image up front combined with kind of setting up the reality of like, we're going to be taking this character seriously. So I love the fact that we got to have such like a kind of iconic image of her up front.
I'm going to back up a little bit because I want to get to the part where we talk about you and how you got involved in the show. I already know the story behind how Gina got involved in the show. But for our listeners, how did Clip first come across your radar?
Well, I got a call from Color Force, the producers who have a relationship with FX and had made the American Crime Story shows. Mm-hmm. And they told me about a podcast, The Sterling Affairs, that they wanted me to listen to. And I just loved it. And I loved the characters that you introduced. I loved the world of it. It felt very consistent with my experience of Los Angeles, having been here for 10 years, that it is an incredibly beguiling, trashy, shitty heaven that is marked both by, awkward parties where everybody feels like they ought to be somewhere else, and racism that feels interwoven with housing. And so the Sterlings felt to me like an incredible window through which to look at the sort of seedy side of LA, but with a sense of humor. I felt at the time that I needed kind of an emotional connection because I didn't get V for a long time. And I started thinking about Doc arriving in 2013, to coach a team that he'd played for a year in 1992. And this was really the season that everybody thought they were going to win a championship, So it was sort of a Cinderella season. And I thought, okay, Doc knows who he's coming to coach for. He's played for Sterling before. And this is really his chance to triumph over this guy by bringing this team together. And he gets T-boned by this tape. And so that's what I thought the story wanted to be, is the collision of those two narratives. And then Doc, with your help, Ramona, agreed to be interviewed for the show and became a consultant on the show. And that's how we got started.
Okay, now we want to bring in Rem. Rembert and I got to know each other when you were a little pup writing for Grantland. Little pup. How old were you when you got that Grantland job?
24. Wow. It was crazy. It was like post-recession getting a job was crazy enough, and then getting one connected to ESPN and at Grantland. It was very much I can't believe this is happening. I just got drafted out of high school.
And Rem was one of the breakout stars at Grantland. Like, he immediately caught people's eye for his writing and his ability and his take on things. And you could send him anywhere and he would make it interesting. And so I kind of lost track of you after the Grantland thing ended. And then Gina brought your name up to me. And I was like, oh, Rembert. Yes, he's fantastic. Like, what do you want him to be in the show? And I'll let you take the story from there.
I remember when we started talking and you told me you read that, I was working at Twitter at the time. I very low-key did a writer's room while having a job. I mean, it is one of those things, I would have had to make a very different life decision if it wasn't the pandemic.
Right.
Because we had a fully virtual writer's room. So I talked to a couple people that I worked with that needed to know, and was like, hey, there's going to be some blocks on my calendar that we're just not going to really talk about for a couple months. It was my first show. It was my first time, I'd done some consulting on shows, but actually being in the writer's room. But the combination of I remember the basketball of it, but there was also something about I was working in corporate America during George Floyd's summer. And I remember eyes coming to me when I worked there being like, are you going to say something? And I was like, when moments like this happen, it really makes it complicated to be a Black employee. Because there are so many things the text you're getting, the responses, the external things, the internal things. And so just feeling that parallel, I had written about it, but I hadn't really been in an environment like that before. It makes you really understand the unwinnable moment these 20-something, early 30-something Black men had to go through with this. And that kind of being at the early point of us expecting athletes, especially NBA players, to take a response, an opinion about something, felt like this beautiful, the planets aligned, allowing me to be a part of this in such a real way.
LeVar Burton? I didn't realize you lived here.
In the sun?
In L.A.
The Enterprise isn't real, right? And I'm not actually blind.
All right. All right.
Where did this idea that Doc Rivers was going to have a confidant, was going to have a friend, come from? And how did it end up being LeVar Burton in the sauna?
Well, we struggled a lot to try to find a character in the show that Doc could be fully honest with. Couldn't be the players. I don't think it could be the assistant coaches. Couldn't be anyone in the front office. Couldn't be family. And we need to find for him someone who can understand, and around whom he very quickly can be unguarded. And we really wanted to bring in, someone to play themselves, because we thought it could really create some of the Hollywood weirdness around the show that we wanted to try to affect. So we were trying to find the right Black celebrity. We didn't want someone who was in the world of sports, but we wanted someone who, like Doc, has a public persona of being nice,
Yes.
safe.
Of a certain age also.
Of a certain age.
Was important.
A peer. This was a long-ass process.
Yes.
And then Rem had a light bulb.
I was on vacation and just like looking at every Black actor between like 40 and 72 and was just like, it's one of you. It's one of you. And, you know, we had been for weeks, months, been talking about it. And I remember just coming across LeVar and was like shocked that LeVar hadn't come across my radar at all. And like kind of sat and thought about it while I was like drinking my like third Mai Tai on vacation and was like, you know, that's actually crazy because I don't think America even thinks of LeVar as a Black actor. He's like an American institution. Mm-hmm. You know, roots like Reading Rainbow, Star Trek, voice on Captain Planet. It's an incredible run, but again, in large part because of Reading Rainbow, he's like Mr. Rogers. He's like this comfort blanket. And I just remember thinking like, I feel like LeVar might have some like actual like fire in him.
Yeah. Lawrence Fishburne knew that we were looking for someone for these scenes, and we thought our best chance of getting someone to play themselves would be to ask him to extend the offer. So I called Lawrence and asked if he would call LeVar Burton. And he said, well, I know him, and I don't think he'll do it. And I said, well, how do you know each other? And he said, well, we met in the sauna. And we often get together there to talk about race. And I was like, what?
I've never, like my jaw was like 4 stories under the earth.
Why didn't you tell us this a year ago? And so, you know, he very generously offered to call LeVar.
Lawrence and LeVar together was like a life highlight for me. Like I was just like, I can't believe I'm seeing both of them together, like in robes on the side chatting. And they just been around in each other's world for so long, and to see an excitement from 2 guys just be like, we get to like do something together. Yeah. It was beyond cool.
Yeah.
I knew it was fucked up here. I just didn't know I was inheriting a team of whiny little bitches. I guess that's got something to do with Donald.
But you thought you could come back and win a crown for the clown.
As a returning conqueror, yeah. And maybe I deluded myself a little bit.
Now that we've done a lot of Doc and LeVar and all that, I want to go to the white parties. It's obviously in the trailer. It's in episode 1. It was one of the only places we see all of the characters in one place. Mm-hmm. How did you go about incorporating Donald and Shelley's white parties into the show, and what were the important beats that you wanted to hit?
I mean, just in terms of the character introductions, we wanted to see, you know, Donald holding Blake's hand and sort of guiding him around the party. We wanted to see, you know, the players sort of being there under duress and having to kind of tolerate all of these people who want a piece of them. I wanted to see Shelley micromanaging, you know, the tag in Marilyn's dress, the broccoli.
Push the gin, honey. We overordered.
Keep the energy up and push the drink. We overordered on the gin. Hang on, honey.
And the other line was, especially in episode 1, where Donald says to Chris Paul, like, there's all these pretty girls here. Why aren't you meeting with them?
Why aren't you boys talking to all these beautiful girls?
Because I love my wife.
Great Alphonse line.
I love that.
And it's a real line. Like when we adapt stuff from real life to the screen, there's a lot of stuff that you have to imagine. But this white party, it is all real.
Well, that's like a thing I feel like is true about the whole show, is like this shit happened. There's so many things that feel like very fantastical, where it's like, no, this is just like what 2014 was like. Like there's a lot of wild stuff happening, and it felt like, you know, does everyone understand what TMZ is? Like people were still trying to kind of figure out what this like next internet age was going to be like and like how quickly stuff spread and who found out. And like, I think one of the things under this is like, this was the beginning of like everyone finding out about everything immediately, which is why everything just snowballed so quickly.
Cleo, when I watch her now, is so perfect in this role, but I know it was a whole journey to find her and to cast her. Can you tell me sort of how you went about finding V. Stiviano?
Yeah. Well, we had an amazing casting director, a woman named Alexa Fogel, who did the casting for The Wire. She did the casting for Ozark, for Atlanta. I mean, she's really an amazing sort of curator of great character actors. But she sent us a lot of really, really great actresses for V. We needed someone who felt like she'd lived a life, who was a little tough. We needed someone who was a little strange. We needed someone who wasn't too young because we didn't want the age difference between Donald and V to be the story. And we needed someone who could embody that unapologetic ambition without seeming shallow. And immediately once we had a conversation with her, the depth of her feeling for V and understanding of all of the implications of, you know, V's biracial identity and what it meant for her and why she would be in a relationship with someone who held racist points of view. I mean, she's a deep well. And so then we were off to the races, and she was just incredible.
Incredible.
Where did the idea for Deja come from?
Well, we wanted V to have, again, a confidant and someone who felt like she was a little bit out of the game, but knew the Hollywood power game, you know, from having had her own career as a little bit of celebrity, and so could sort of decode a lot of the things that V was going to be going through in the show, but in a way that would make V feel like, yeah, you're talking to me about an earlier time.
Yeah, like I'm the evolved version of you.
Yeah. And so we just had fun. I mean, I don't remember where the idea for her being VJ in Spring Break came from. It came up in the writer's room.
It feels like a really, I'm not shocked we got there.
Yeah. I mean, we were just thinking about someone who had kind of like a flash of celebrity and then had to figure out how to keep making money.
Someone that did MTV Spring Break for 3 years. Like
someone who did MTV and didn't get to keep the bikinis.
And didn't get to keep the bikinis. Like, it's that type of person. Yeah.
And we just loved her for her sense of humor. And something that was really important to the actress who came to play her, Ivana, was... and she checked us on this. I mean, there was a time that she called me where she felt like Deja was being judgmental of V. And she's like, that's not the character. The character is not judgmental. And I think that that's one of the things that's so great about her in the show is like she can make fun of V, she can make fun of the whole situation, but she is not judgmental. And I think that that's part of what invites the audience to sort of sit in Deja's point of view about it.
Yeah.
So we'll fast forward a little bit to episode 2 where they're in line at the drive-thru and they see the billboard up there. This is where you sort of first introduce who V is obsessed with, some of the figures of 2014, right? Paris Hilton and Kim Kardashian and all that. How did you figure that part out? You know, all this hero worship of some of the 2014 figures.
I mean, that was really part of the period, was the proliferation of women who were quote unquote famous for being themselves. And, you know, one of the things that is distinct both about Paris and about Kim is that they come from money. And so they are sort of like the green light on the horizon. They are the thing that is sort of taunting a young woman like V, who's like, why can't I get there to a place of financial security, independence, autonomy, building my own brand? Well, you can't get there because of capitalism.
Yeah, it's just like because it's America. Like,
yeah. And so we really wanted to make sure that that imagery was all around V in a way that felt like very tempting and frustrating for her.
Yeah, it's like, you know, through one lens, it's like gives her some motivation, but I found it to be also kind of like haunting.
Haunting, yeah.
It's just like, this is that thing that you like, somewhere in your head, you're like, I don't know how I get there, but, you know, as a newer resident of Los Angeles. It's like the ability to convince yourself that anything is possible and nothing
and
can
also
stand in your way.
both Kim and Paris were famous for tapes.
So it's a way to get out there.
One of the interesting stylistic choices that we see in the show, and we see it pretty early on, is the internet becoming this character.
Nobody ever passed language arts dicking around on Snapchat.
It's not just a scroll. If you freeze frame, I had fun freeze framing and seeing what was on there because it moves pretty quickly, so it's fun as a viewer to watch it. Where did you come up with this idea, and how did you execute it?
Well, once we got the show into post-production, what we felt was a missing character, and that was the character of the internet. And part of the reason it was important to figure out how to get that on screen is that the tape is not released until the end of the second episode. And you need to have the sense that the story is going to get big. You need to have a sense that something is coming. And because, the sort of strains of storytelling in the first two episodes they haven't really come together. We needed some connective tissue. And we couldn't fucking figure it out. I mean, there was a month in post-production where it was like, is it voiceover? Is it this? Is it that? And so on a Friday, I went to Huntington Gardens and took mushrooms.
It's a lovely place.
It was not a very productive day.
You needed it.
I needed it. I needed to, quote unquote, take off my blazer and get vulnerable. Which was what I did.
Did you go to the tea room afterwards?
No. I had to go home. And then, I didn't figure it out. Was very frustrated with myself for not figuring it out. And then came into post-production the next Monday. And our editor, Susanna Benaim, was showing, and she's just so imaginative and endlessly creative. She tried everything. She was showing us the split screen, what if we can see Doc on screen at the same time as we see V as split screen? And I was like, well, the internet isn't boxes, it scrolls. And I started moving my hand the way that you do when you're scrolling your phone. And I was like, oh, shit! And suddenly having these scrolling elements in the show started to bring in that sort of malicious, juvenile, cute energy of the internet that chews things up and spits them out as fast as can be. That felt like it was really adding the right dynamic and telling us that while the internet is moving at the speed of the scrolls, our characters are moving at the speed of human beings.
Yeah.
And that to me felt like a critical element for the story, especially because of how quickly events moved over the course of that week when the tape came out. So what you'll see in the scrolls is obviously we're sort of around the world of the internet in the first two episodes with like Paris Hilton and Doge. And then as the internet becomes monoculture, right? It's like the story takes over the internet for a minute and then the internet moves on. And so what happens to these characters once the internet moves on?
Okay, I want to talk to you about the tapes themselves.
Why would you do that? Are you stupid or something? You want to broadcast to the world that you walk around with a man like that?
Honey, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, too.
I wish I could change the color of my skin.
That's not the issue. The issue is we don't have to broadcast everything.
I'm not broadcasting anything.
Then why are you taking pictures with minorities? Why?
What's wrong with minorities? What's wrong with black people?
What was it like shooting this scene, and how did you piece it together from real audio?
Well, so we had the transcripts, and there's two tapes. It's a total of about 15 minutes of audio. And we went through a huge battle to keep the bulk of the conversation out of the pilot. There were a lot of people who wanted it in the pilot. And we felt very, very strongly in the writer's room that was not – it was like one of many, many conversations like that. And it was not something that had value until it was, quote, unquote, the tape. And so we really wanted to play it in episode 2 where you understand the size of its impact. And we shot that scene, I think, in one of our first days shooting with Cleo and Ed. It was one of the...
Super early.
Maybe the second or third day we were shooting with them. And we wanted them to be word perfect because everything that is in that scene is from the tape. You know, we did some sort of editing and some transposition, but every word is from the tape. It was really hard because, you know, we were getting it from so many angles and because it was such an intense scene. But once we saw them doing the scene together, it was so scary good that I cried because I felt like seeing Cleo's V and the ways in which you feel her going in and out of performance, like in and out of, I know I'm taping you, in and out of, I'm reacting to what you're saying and I'm upset, was so dynamic. And I felt like looking at Ed, I couldn't see Ed anymore. I saw Donald. I was overwhelmed. I thought it was so incredible. I just think the two of them in that scene are out of control good.
Yeah, I knew that it was going well because I was like, oh, like, even though I knew the whole transcript, I'm like, damn, like, is this V being recorded? Is this how V actually feels? Like, is she saying something so it gets picked up on the audio kind of as an out? Like, there's so many things, but she has to be so many different people in this one conversation that it was very cool to watch them kind of become these characters so early on.
In my reporting on the story and in talking to Clipper players from over the decades, they all had this very similar story of Donald Sterling coming in their locker room, violating the sanctity of the locker room and ogling them in a way that was extremely dehumanizing, awkward, uncomfortable, and usually he brought along some friends.
Hello, boys. Having fun? I know we are because you're winners.
What the fuck are these people?
Come say hi.
I'll just wait here.
What, you never snuck into the little boys' room before? They don't mind. It's a celebration.
Everyone in this scene seems to get that, including V. Like, she walks in the room in the green dress, which is so loud and so ostentatious. And even she kind of says, wait, should we go in here?
Because she understands the point of view of the players.
Yeah.
So that's what you feel from her, is she knows what it feels to be objectified in that way.
And she's like found herself on the wrong side of it.
Donald's asking her to speak as if she's on his side, which puts her in an impossible situation.
Yeah, even like the people that come in, there's just this feeling like I paid tickets or I know someone high up at this place, like I have full reign over this place, these people. I can do whatever I want. And, you know, when we shot that, I remember being just like taken aback by how good Ed was. Because it requires like a very specific type of like nastiness because he has a smile on his face for most of it. You know, he's like, aren't I giving you all these compliments through all this, you know, racism that I'm not clocking? And, you know, going into that scene, I remember like kind of sitting, watching it, knowing that it needed to be a certain type of uncomfortable. And, you know, just like what Ed's doing with his hands, how close he is. Like there's all these like little things that, you know, not in the locker room example, but I do think like I have felt that before in other arenas. I know people who have kind of felt like I'm pitching to these donors and they can talk to me however they want. There's like a kind of toxic cycle that I do feel like really came alive in that scene. But I thought Ed as Donald there was like really like he understood what Donald needed to be in that scene in a really incredible way to me.
Yeah, but one of the things that I think just underscores how extreme your obliviousness and your sort of sense of entitlement has to be to violate that space is that the first time we shot that scene, I had been vague about the blocking, you know, and had not sort of made the dialogue quite pointed. And so when we looked at the scene in the dailies, the violation was not clear. And it was because I think Ed and Cleo and Kelly and the background players who came in felt like they were violating a private space. And because the script wasn't telling them what to do, they didn't really go in. They didn't really touch anybody. And we looked at it in the cut and knew that we had to reshoot the scene and gave very, very specific instructions to our background actors and really pushed the dialogue. And so we reshot the scene, and I remember when we reshot it, we were all sitting in that locker room together.
Yeah.
And I could barely watch it because it was so uncomfortable.
It was tough.
I mean, it was really painful. And I went up to Sheldon at Craft Services, you know, while they were sort of turning the camera around. Sheldon plays DeAndre Jordan. And I was like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And he looked at me. He was like, you know, like getting a fucking peanut butter sandwich or whatever. He looked at me and he was like, "Yeah, we're acting. Like, dummy." You know, this is
But
like...
it was one of those scenes, like, afterwards, it's like, everyone just, like, walk away. And just like, let's all take 15 and just, like, ugh.
It was, yeah. And that's, you know, I think we really got it.
Okay, they have a lightning round for us.
Oh.
These are short answers, no more than a sentence or a phrase, okay?
Great.
So I will start. I'll go to Gina, then I go to...
Like, now I'm really sweating.
Yeah.
No, it's not that hard. Don't worry. Fashion from the 2010s that you hope doesn't come back.
Feather earrings.
Like, big shorts. I like,
What's wrong with big shorts? I like big shorts.
You know, well, you know, this was like, we were coming out of the super long short era. It was like...
Are you talking about like a culotte?
No, I'm talking about like the basketball jersey.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about the big jersey era.
You're not talking about women's fashion.
No, I'm not talking about...
Favorite snack while you were working?
Popcorn. And I'll say my popcorn obsession was like fully unleashed when I read an article about Steph Curry eating trash bags of popcorn. I said, if it's okay for him, it's okay for me.
Yeah. Just saran wrapped peanut butter and jelly. Like 3-4 times.
Very NBA.
Yeah.
Everybody loves peanut butter and jelly in the NBA.
Good on the stomach.
Something you're super randomly good at. What is your superpower?
I'm really good. I've learned this in LA. I'm really good at driving for 10, 20 minutes. And then someone's like, how do you get there? And I have no idea what I just did. Like, it's a talent. Like, I just don't really know where I am.
I'm handy.
Really? Mm-hmm. Like you can put together an idea.
Don't seem so surprised. I'm handy.
That's actually, that's impressive.
That's great. Gina and I don't live far
My
from each
sister used
other.
to call me Handy Andy. Yeah.
I'm fairly handy myself. Like I can put together an IKEA bookcase.
Handy Andy.
I just prefer not to now. What's your favorite basketball team?
Clippers.
The Atlanta Hawks. I'm from Atlanta.
Oh, okay. All right. I was like, that's like super random. All right. Craziest behind the scenes moment.
When we were shooting V and Deja in the drive-thru, we were posted up at that restaurant. I was writing inside, and suddenly people started running inside the restaurant from the parking lot because a drunk driver came down the street, rammed into a parked car, reversed their car, rammed into another one, and they were basically going back and forth between parked cars. And the cops who were, security on our production surrounded the car to try to get the driver under control. And they ended up wrestling the guy out of the car, and he was arrested.
My favorite story is as we were wrapping towards that last week, it was beginning to be like, let's give hugs, like high five, like we actually made it through. And one member of our cast, who I will not name, I became like, I just like very into him. And at the end, he like waved me over and was like, I got a present for you. I was like, oh, that's so nice. Like, I can't believe any of these actors actually know my name. And his thank you gift to me was he just gave me a bunch of weed. And I was like, that's awesome. I love you. That's awesome. It's good energy. Yeah. I was like, I don't know what I was expecting.
Yeah.
But I guess we did bond. I appreciate that.
Gina, Rembert, thank you so much for all your time, your thoughts, your reflections.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ramona.
This episode was hosted by Ramona Shelburne and produced by Megan Coyle. Our associate producer is Gus Navarro. Our line producer is Kat Sankey. Sound design by Ryan Ross Smith and original music by Hannes Brown. Preeti Varathon is our head of audio. Our head of development is Kati Fernandez. Our head of talent relations is Chantre Kamak. Our executive producers for 30 for 30 and ESPN Films are Marcia Cook, Brian Lockhart, Burke Magnus, and Heather Anderson. Our ESPN audio team includes Megan Judge and Devin McGowan. Special thanks to Rosalind Bibby at FX and Greg Bergman at ESPN LA Radio. As always, thank you for listening. Episodes of Let's Talk Clip drop every Tuesday until July 2nd.